oh why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again?
Some communities laughed when black people said the system will eat its own people. They said that black people are playing victims. But right now, the same system that crushed black families, destroyed black wealth, and mocked black pain has turned around and started to eat their own,
If you have been following the news today, you know that there is no more money for SNAP benefits. And that is going to be a problem for Donald Trump. That's going to be a problem for Republicans writ large. Because I don't think they know who their voters are. Because of the 10 states that received the most money in SNAP benefits, 7 of them voted for Donald Trump. And 60% of SNAP recipients live in a county that Donald Trump won. So those numbers, not great for Republicans. Because polling is showing that most Americans, about 73% of them, are largely putting the shutdown on the shoulders of Republicans. Now, Donald Trump is somehow staying immune from this, but Republicans, especially in Congress, well, not so much them. Add to that the fact that 78% of American voters, including 56% of Republican voters, support extending those subsidies. So, those are not great numbers for Republicans. An additional little hiccup to that, about 54% of the people whose health insurance premiums will double or triple also live in districts that Donald Trump won. Put all of that together, and what does it say? It means that the people very specifically who voted for Donald Trump are about to be very specifically harmed by Donald Trump. And then, another fun fact, as of November 1st, there's no more money to pay active duty military members. But as of November 1st, there's no more money to even play with. There's nothing they can even do. They are flat out of money, including out of money for SNAP benefits. Many states are already sending out warnings to people and recipients of SNAP benefits that there's no money come November 1st. You can't feed your kids anymore.
Poor white America is crying. And black people, they are just watching history repeating itself. Grand rising kings and queens from Africa and across the ocean. Much love and conscience to every one of you. I thank you so much, and I appreciate you for everything you are doing to me, okay? I love talking to you. And let me remind you, behind the, down here, we have 2 captions. We have the one for English, and we have the one for Swahili. I've just realized that you want to know Swahili more, so I've decided to put the Swahili one in a bigger caption, okay? All said. Now, from the very beginning, poor white Americans were sold an illusion. Okay? The elites of the rich white America, the plantation owners, the industrialists, the political architects, they told them that you might be poor, but at least you are not like them. But at least you are white, And that one line shaped centuries of decisions. It divided workers, destroyed unity, and created one of the most powerful psychological weapons in history, the illusion of superiority. Now, instead of uniting with enslaved and freed black people to fight the same oppressor who controlled both of their lives, poor white chose the comfort of racism over power of solidarity. And that illusion, or the illusion, becomes America's most successful con. White supremacy became the original Ponzi schemes, a system where the rich few at the top, they profit from the ignorance and prejudices of those below. Poor white never got true wealth, okay? Just the empty satisfaction of being above black people. But right now, that illusion is cracking. You see what's happening around food stamps. Let's watch these clips and then we come back with more commentary.
Oh why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants, black folks, welfare queens, LGBTQ, criminals, you know, the usual scapegoats. Third, the elites promise protection to poor white folks. A politician comes along and says, I'll keep those people in their place, or I'll kick them out, or I'll lock them up. Or, more politely, I'll defend your values. They don't say, I'll make your life better. Well, they say it, they just don't mean it. They'll say, I'll make sure they don't get ahead of you. Fourth, they vote for the punishment, not the policy. When a law gets passed that slashes public housing or school funding or food aid, they think, good, that'll stop those lazy freeloaders. And they do some mental gymnastics that make them believe it's worth losing those things for their own families in order to see those problematic black people and immigrants and so forth being punished. It gets to a point where just seeing those guys being punished is reward enough, which is pretty sick, but that's how behavior works. Their housing, schools, and groceries are on the chopping block too, but they blame that on Biden. Always a scapegoat. They get hit by the same policies they were told would punish the others, and they blame the wrong people. The system fails them, but they've been trained to blame the scapegoats, not the cause, which is the rich people, the people they voted for. So they think the problem is still those people, not the fact that they were personally manipulated by the people they voted for. They're basically saying, I'll take the hit as long as you don't help them, or worse, as long as you hurt them. That is the psychological wage Du Bois was talking about, the trade-off between material security for racial status. And that's a crying shame, folks.
Imagine being a teacher or a principal in a school in a red state which depends on funding, federal funding from the Department of Education, and still voting for Donald Trump. What am I talking about? Watch.
CNN analysis found the 15 states that most rely on federal funding for its public schools in 2022 all voted for Trump.
And I voted for President Trump.
I mean, you're an educator. You
Yes.
didn't vote for Trump eliminating federal funds.
No, I did not vote for that. I voted for President Trump to make America first again. If we have
You fell for a
federal
slogan.
cuts, then that's going to mean bigger classroom sizes. I would lose teachers, first and foremost. It's devastating.
I don't think that anyone in our county wants to cut our school funding. I don't think that anyone voted for that.
Do you mind if I ask who you voted for in the election?
I voted for Donald Trump.
We all know and understand that red states, the education is abysmal, that they are always on the bottom of the docket when it comes to test scores, reading levels. They are horrible. And here we have two educators that know that their states, their schools depend on federal funding, depend on them, yet they didn't bother to do the basic research of what their candidate was going to do. They fell for a slogan. Instead of listening to all the times Trump said he was going to get rid of the Department of Education, that he was going to go after LGBTQ people, that he was going to get rid of DEI, that he was going to do all of these things, and looking at the bills that have been happening in red states, instead of actually doing the minimal bit of research, they fell for a slogan and thought, well, I never thought that this would happen. So I guess these red states are just going to have to pick themselves up by the bootstraps, right? Because they voted for this, and now they're getting what they voted for.
I live in rural Arkansas. And if you don't understand why people in rural Arkansas or rural America vote Republican, it's because of fear and jealousy. Jealousy that somebody has it better than they do, that they work their asses off, and most of them do. More education, because the education here is at the bottom of the tier. Maternal mortality, low. Education, low. Quality of living, low. Infrastructure, super low. There's no industry. There's no hope for these young kids in rural Arkansas to have a job. We had a chance to vote Chris Jones, an actual rocket scientist like myself who was educated and had a plan to bring jobs and infrastructure to Arkansas. But the people I talked to in rural Arkansas will not vote for him because of his color of his skin. And they weren't nice when they described the color of his skin. So they voted for a sycophant, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is treating this like her personal money bank. There is no infrastructure here. The roads are shit. You can drive 2 hours. So my closest grocery store, besides Walmart, is 2 hours away. So if I go that 2 hours to go to that grocery store, the roads I have to take are barely have enough room for two people to pass each other. There is no cell phone coverage for over an hour and a half of that ride. And there's no hope to get those roads fixed anytime soon because there's no money. I say that, but lo and behold, what did Sarah do as of July of 2025? She has loaned and bought $55 million worth of Israeli bonds. So she's loaned Israel $55 million with a catch to give them 100 more million by the end of the year. When her people are fucking starving, they have no medical care. Hell, most teenage girls here are living at home pregnant with their moms. And they're living at home with their moms and their boyfriends. Because that's how rural America lives. There's nothing for these kids to look forward to. So why would they ever vote Republican? Because that's what they're told to do. $150 million would go a long way to feed, get medical attention, and up so that our children here in Arkansas don't die in infancy and the mothers don't die in childbirth. And that is rural America. Fuck Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She is the worst governor okay, she's second. Our neighbor Texas Abbott is worse, but she's a close second.
A lot of people that are on food stamps and live in really poor areas also are Trump voters.
I voted for him for lower grocery prices. Not only has that not happened, I'm getting my food stamps taken. I did not ask for this.
Am I a bad person because I got a little smile on my face when I found out that 42% of the people that receive SNAP benefits are white people in red states?
This is for all the MAGA voters posting about not getting a shit about people not getting their SNAP benefits. Quick education, 55% of whites voted for Trump. Whites are the people who use SNAP benefits the most. They make up 37% of SNAP benefit recipients. And most of those people are in the southeast and other rural areas.
Too many privileged white people are coming here on this app and they're talking about people that benefit from food stamps, which most of them happen to be white. Most of them happen to live in Republican states, red state. Now, don't blame the Democrats because this is absolutely Trump's doing. He can fund it if he wanted to. He's funding ICE. He's sending $40 billion to Argentina. Why are you not mad with him? The only thing the Democrats want to do is make sure that you have affordable health care. And people are getting their notice. So not only you're not going to have your food stamps until the government is back in order, but you're going to have a big freaking health care bill coming January. And before you start coming over here complaining about the Democrats, I need you to go to the videos in which people are crying, teachers, healthcare professionals, in which their insurance has doubled or even tripled. Good luck on trying to get food and trying to stay healthy.
Baby, white TikTok is in a frenzy, and while I have my voice right now, I'm gonna use that hoe. They don't understand how their SNAP benefits are being cut off in November. They literally thought when they heard SNAP benefits, it was only gonna hit the black folks, okay? Now I'm gonna say this. When the government shuts down, it does not just shut down for one particular group of people. It shuts down for everybody. So yes, white people in the Midwest, these Appalachian white folks, y'all ain't gonna have y'all shit either. Now I am gonna say this, when you decided to vote for that man, you put a wild card on the table during Uno. You don't know which way this man is gonna go. And no, I am not blaming Democrats once again.
Seeing white people in real time come on this platform with the realization that SNAP benefits is the same thing as food stamps and EBT, it's quite comedic. I can't lie, it's a little funny. And not funny, haha, funny weird, because they did the same shit with Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act. They didn't realize that they were one and the same. Just two different names. SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, EBT, food stamps, they're all the same, just different. You know, one is just like the government official name. I don't know. That's the thing about racism and being racist. It's a sickness. It's a disease that's generational, if we're being quite frank. And y'all don't want to heal from it. Y'all don't want to get better because you feel like you can stand on some imaginary pedestal instead of, I don't know, instead of allowing everyone to get benefits that make all of our lives better. You will cut off your nose to spite your face. You will shoot yourself in the foot in the name of making things difficult for a demographic that you just don't like, for something that they can't change, their skin. But then you don't realize you're hurting yourself too. And a lot of these politicians, the only color they care about is green. Money is their god. Money is who they serve.
Absolutely love your comment. Okay, love it. You are correct with a 1 to 2%. Okay, you are very, very close. I'm sure you did your fact checking, but you brought up something very important about race, and it does need to be talked about because you are correct. The data you talked about. So the latest USDA stats do show us that about 36 to 38% of SNAP participants are white, aka on the form, non-Hispanic. That means 62 to 64% are from other racial/ethnic groups. But it also means that this is a nationwide program. It reaches across racial lines and economic classes, right? So if someone were to tell you SNAP is only for minorities, that's definitely false. It's for low-income people of all races. I will get into why I just stated that here shortly. But let's get into the racial data and why it actually does matter and why your comment matters so much right now. So authoritarian governments have historically used divide and conquer, telling one group, you pay, they're taking it, or they're different than you. If people believe it's just for them over there and not for themselves, they may accept cuts actually when their own community is targeted next. The fact that a significant portion of recipients are white means any rollback is still everyone's problem, not just one racial group.
So many racist white people are okay with SNAP benefits being removed from everybody in the United States of America, and they sit here and act like they're not the largest recipients of SNAP benefits in this country.
A post is going viral after a MAGA mom who's on SNAP benefits called out her family for not lending her money for groceries. In this Facebook post, this mom said that her husband is on the GI Bill and she has 2 kids. She continues by saying she's at her wit's end and she's overwhelmed and doesn't know what to do. She said that she asked her husband's mom, and the mom responded with, "You voted for this."
Yo, in today's episode of As the White Hood Turns, have you seen that viral video going around of that MAGA voter who is mad that her family won't lend her money for groceries because they done cut off her SNAP benefits? Now, I love a good MAGA fuck around and find out. I love it. I love this for them. But what makes this even better is that there are also videos and pictures circulating of the Halloween party that Syphilitic Sid threw last night. But he don't give a damn that the people out here ain't got no food. They ain't got no benefits. I promise you, they woke up this morning to that notification that their SNAP benefits had been suspended. Now this lady out here begging her family, and she went off on her mother-in-law because her mother-in-law refused to lend her money to buy groceries. Her mother-in-law told her, too bad, so sad. You voted for this. Figure it out. But this just goes back to, they thought only black and brown people
would suffer.
This is a funny story. Like, oh my goodness. Literally, people, I want to know, what would you do? Like, seriously. What would you do? Is this something, like, would you hold it against a person? I think I would. I'm not gonna lie, I think I would. Like, and everybody voted for Trump. This is y'all demise.
You remember when I said imminent ruinage? Imminent ruinage? FAFO, it didn't take long. We don't know her name yet. We don't know her name, but she made a post on Facebook. Big MAGA girl who blasted her family because they would not loan her money because her SNAP benefits were running out. I mean, seriously, the MAGAs just found out that they were on SNAP. No shortage of people lining up to make fun of this woman. I am not going to do that per se. I'm going to say that you get what you voted for and you're
Going viral after a MAGA mom who's on SNAP benefits called out her family for not lending her money for groceries. In this Facebook post, this mom said that her husband is on the GI Bill and she has 2 kids. She continues by saying she's at her wit's end and she's overwhelmed and doesn't know what to do. She said that she asked her husband's mom, and the mom responded with, "You voted for this."
Welcome back. Every era repeated the same mistake. In the Jim Crow, the South poor white farmers and sharecroppers were drowning in poverty. But instead of joining hands with black people, instead of joining hands with black farmers to demand fair wages, they supported segregation laws that kept everyone poor except the white elites. In the 1990s, when black Americans demanded civil rights, equality, and justice, many poor white families were manipulated into believing that those demands will take something away from them, maybe will take the whiteness away from them. So they voted for politicians who promised to keep things the way they were. I was asking myself, why are working class Americans or poor white Americans, why are they always voting against black people? Even if the government they are voting for, it is against them too. Why? But right now I understand. The manipulation of the white supremacy does not end there. From Reagan war on drugs to Trump's Make America Great Again, poor white Americans were convinced to support policies that attacked black progress, not realizing that those same policies will destroy their own. Even Latinos did so. They voted against black people's wish. What are they getting in return? They are being served by ICE day by day. Their kids are being locked in their cages day by day. They are being frustrated just because of voting against black people. Black people have been right all along. And allow me to say this freely. Whatever black person tells you, even if it's not happening right now, it will come to pass. It will come to pass. Okay? When Reagan cut social programs, they said it was to stop lazy welfare queens. But who relied on those programs the most? It is poor white families in the rural America. When Trump promised to drain the swamp, he instead filled it with billionaires who stripped out their jobs, raised their healthcare costs, and cut taxes for the rich. And now small towns across America look like ghost cities, empty factories, drug addiction, unemployment, broken homes. The same problems they once laughed at in black neighborhood are their reality. Okay? There is an economic trap of racism that I need to talk about, because racism was not just a mindset. Racism was a business model. America built its economy by exploiting black labor and white ignorance. While black people were enslaved to build wealth, poor white people were fed propaganda to defend the same system, even though they got none of the benefits. And when slavery ended, the game changed. The rules stayed the same, but the game changed. How? The new system of control became mass segregation, housing discrimination, and economic segregation. When black families were redlined out of wealth, white families were handed cheap housing loans in suburbs, creating the illusion of prosperity. But decades later, what is happening? When the system crashed in 2008, the same white families lost their homes too. They finally learned that the system was never for white people. It was always for the powerful few. But they did not change anything. That's how whiteness has brainwashed people. The real enemy has never been black. The real enemy was never black people. The real enemy was the system that used race to keep both sides from uniting. Okay? And that is the greatest tragedy in American story. Look at the America today. Look at the Americans today. Poverty rates among poor whites are skyrocketing. Drug addiction around them, especially opioids. It is wiping out the entire city. Factories are gone. Education is collapsing. The solidarity, they are saying that the government doesn't care about us. Now they are uniting, calling out that black people are just there, silent, looking at them. In mind we are saying, or black people are saying that we told you. This time, the same cry black America has been shouting for 400 years. It is on them too. The only difference is that when black people said it, they were called complainers. But when poor white America said it, it's called a crisis. Now the camera show white families crying about addiction, crime, or hopelessness. I see on social media, the videos I've played you, white people are complaining. The same things black communities face for generations. The same pain, just a different color. And that's the bitter truth. When they supported politicians or policies that hurt black people, they were also voting to destroy their own future without knowing. They just didn't know it yet. Okay? History always repeats itself. History always repeats itself. In the 1880s, poor whites defended slavery. In the 1900s, they defended segregation. In the 2000s, they defended policies that punished their own series or their own class. Every time they believed that they were protecting their way of life, but every time, way of life was designed to keep them broke, divided, and angry, while the elites grew richer and more powerful. Now the wheelers stand the face of the same police brutality, the same hopelessness, the same economic traps, just in different ways or in different form. They are finally seeing that the color of the skin or the color of your skin can't save you from the greed of the system. The same energy that used to mock black pain is now feeling that pain in the first hand. And this time, the pain that's going to the white people, it is so much pain. If black people are receiving like 20 degrees of pain, they are receiving like 80 degrees of pain. Why? It's because they don't know how to handle it. Black people have known how to handle this for decades. When black people are suffering with their debts and everything, they have been on this. But for white people, it's new. For some of white people, this is an awakening. They are starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, black people or black community was never the problem. Maybe black people were actually the mirror showing what the system does to everyone. And that's where the story changes, because awareness, even when painful, is the beginning of transformation. This is not about revenge. No, it's about revelation. Okay? So, here we are. Poor white Americans is waking up to the lie, the privilege they were promised was never real. It was just a leash. Okay? And right now, that leash is tightening. But what happens next? Okay? Will they finally admit the truth and stand with the very people who voted against? Will they support black people? Will they stand with the black people? Will they say solidarity with black people? That's what I'm going to look. I'm going to waiting to see that. Okay? Because after slavery ended, America faced a problem. How do you keep the system of control alive without chains? How? The answer is psychological slavery. And they told the poor whites that you are still better than them. And the simple sentence rebuilt the same hierarchy without plantations. Okay? The Freedmen's Bureau, which was supposed to help newly freed black people, was sabotaged by Southern politicians who claimed it took away from whites. Poor white farmers struggling to feed their families were told that the reason they were suffering was because black people were getting free land. But here's the truth. Nobody gave black people land. Instead, the 40 acres and a mule, that promise was broken, and the land were given right back to the same white elites who had enslaved both black and poor white workers through debt and sharecropping. Okay? So while poor white fought against reconstructions of equality and wealthy, the wealthy quietly brought up their farms and enslaved their future through debt. And they lost everything. But they never understood why. Right now they are waking up. They are waking up. When you go back to the history in the 1960s and 1970s, America was changing. Black people were demanding civil rights, equal pay, fair housing and education. And once again, the elites feared unity, because if poor whites and black people ever come together, the power structure will crumble overnight. Okay? And that's when the Southern strategy was born. Republican strategies like Lee, Atwara, and others openly admitted it, that they couldn't use the word segregation anymore, so they replaced it with states' rights, welfare, law and order, same meaning but different language. They told the poor whites that black people were taking over their jobs, abusing welfare, and ruining Americans' value. But behind closed doors, corporations were shipping factories overseas. Corporations were destroying unions. Corporations were gutting rural America. And by the time poor whites realized what was happening, it was too late. They had voted away their power. The jobs were gone. The union were gone. All they had left was anger, and politicians ready to redirect the anger back towards black people. Now, another example, in the 1980s. In 1980s, Ronald Reagan, the Hollywood cowboy president, sold America a fantasy that cutting taxes for the rich and slashing social programs would somehow make everyone richer. Okay? But that trick was a theory. It never trickled down. Instead, it drowned the poor. Okay? Reagan's wars on drug destroyed black families under the guise of law and order, filling prisons with young black men. But while that war began in black neighborhoods, it did not stop there. Within a decade, poor white communities were facing the same police militarization, the same addiction crisis, and the same hopelessness. Reagan's cut to education, Reagan's cuts to housing and mental health funding hit rural America hardest. The same towns that cheered him in 1980 were ghost towns by 1990. The same families who waved the flag now were waving food stamps. And still, they didn't connect the dots. Because of what? Because racism blinded them to who their real enemy was. Racism blinded, they were brainwashed. I always say this. People say that black people are brainwashed, but let me say this. White, working class, white America, poor white America, or working class white America, they are the most brainwashed and colonized. Their minds are colonized more than black people. At least black people knows that they are being colonized. At least black people can stand out. At least black people can fight it back. At least black people can find ways to jiggle around. But white people, it is something else. They don't know how to fight on this movie. They don't know. They don't know how to respond when they think the government is against them, because they believe the government. The government has sold them lies and they bought it. Okay? I will say this. Back to examples of how white people never connected dots. In 1990s, Democrats and Republicans alike began dancing the same corporate tune. You know, Bill Clinton's tough on crime policies expanded the prison, and under System Reagan started, okay, locking up millions more, mostly black men. But again, the machine didn't stop there. When the prison industrial complex needed more bodies, it turned towards poor whites too. And now the same system that had destroyed black families was swallowing white ones. Meth replaced crack. Trailer parks replaced housing projects. And the same judges who once looked at other way at white crimes were now sentencing poor white to decades in prison too. The very system built on racial punishment had evolved into class punishment. And by the time they saw the shift, the damage was done. Okay? Here comes the Trump illusion. Here in modern era. He told the poor white Americans that he will make America great again. He played on their pain, their anger, their fear for being replaced, you know. But Trump wasn't there to save them. He was there to use them. While he preached nationalism, his businesses outsourced jobs overseas. And while he said that he was fighting for the forgotten men, he forgot them. The second he entered the White House, he forgot them. The factories have never come back. The coal jobs disappeared faster than ever. And the opioid crisis exploded like wildfire. And meanwhile, billionaires made record profits, and Trump tax cut gave them more money than working class American could dream of. And what did the poor white Americans get? Debt, addiction, desperation. So they voted for a man who used their pain to rise and then laughed at them behind the closed doors. Now look at the map of America right now. The same red states that voted for freedom, the same MAGA, are now having conversation, having the highest poverty rates, the worst education systems, and the most drug overdose. And that's not coincidence. That is consequences. Every time poor white America voted based on race instead of class, they got poorer. Every time they voted against black progress, they voted against their own survival. Okay? And the irony is that black people, the ones they mocked, ignored, and dismissed, are now building businesses, building communities, and generational wealth. Okay? Despite centuries of oppression, black people are building wealth. Black people knows how to jiggle around this, so they are building wealth. So that's a divine reversal there, and prophecy unfolding in real time. Okay? America is now facing its generational karma. You can't build a nation on exploitation, lies, and division and expect internal richness, internal prosperity. The system that once targeted one race has expanded to target all poor people, regardless your color. The working class is now the new plantation. Corporate America is the new master. Debt is the new chain. And propaganda is the new whip. But the twist is that the descendants of those who suffered the most are now the ones with the visions to break free. Black people learned the system from the inside out because they had to. They had to learn. And right now, they are seeing the same tricks that were used. They are seeing the cycle. And right now, the awareness has become the weapon of black people. Meanwhile, poor white America is still playing catch up, realizing too late, that their loyalty was their own oppressor. So, if there's one thing black people understand, if there's one thing black people understand deeply, this transformation through pain. Black people were enslaved, but they rose. They were segregated, but they thrived. They were targeted, but they built movements that changed the world. So when poor white Americans cry out now, saying that the government betrayed us, black people understand. But you know what they say also? Black people are saying now you feel how we feel. Now you see what we have been seeing, what we have been shouting for centuries. And maybe, just maybe, this is the universe's way of equalizing the lesson. The world is rebalancing itself. Because what they refuse to learn through unity, it is teaching them. So here we are again, full circle. From slavery to Trump. The same manipulation has been recycled generation after generation. Poor white America chose the illusion of superiority over the power of solidarity, and now they're paying the price for it. But the story isn't over. We're going to see more. Stay tuned, kings and queens, because the next episode will be more fire. Make sure you watch and you read and you understand the Swahili part. Until next episode, peace out.